Bonjour! It's not every day that I get something in the post from France, but today FreddyV has sent me a little something, and I'm really excited about what this little something is. And you should too, because if you've got an IBM PC, an XT, or maybe some kind of low-end other PC, but generally the PCs and XTs, then this one thing that I think is in this envelope, which I have not opened, may be helpful for you too. In fact, really helpful. So I'm gonna open this. Let's go. As expected, one card. And what is the card? Well, it says it right there. It is an ISA PicoMEM, the all-in-one emulation board. So you might be wondering, what does this PicoMEM card actually do? Well, it does a couple of things actually, more than a couple. First of all, here's a sound card. It plays digital audio. Here is a XT IDE. It takes a compact flash card or sometimes an SD card and lets you load your files and save your files to that. It's very handy. This here is a network card. Not quite a Wi-Fi card, but will sit on the same network. Imagine if that was a Wi-Fi card for this exercise, right? And then finally, this is a micro RAM. It's a RAM expansion card which provides up to almost 1 megabyte of memory for your IBM PC XT. All right, so we've got all those cards and they're all in this, but there's more. In fact, this card allows us to use 3 different types of audio. It gives us Adlib, it gives us Tandy, and it gives us creative music, the CMS system. So that's otherwise known as the Gameblaster. So that's pretty cool. It gives us a USB hub, and that allows us to plug in a USB hub itself, like a proper one. So micro USB, so you need to get a micro USB hub. But then that allows you to use a mouse, yeah, like a USB mouse on your old computer. Crazy, I know. It also allows you to use USB joysticks and perhaps a few other USB devices as well. And it also gives you an extra 4 megabytes of RAM via EMS. So not only do you get the full gamut of 640k, even potentially up to 1 megabyte as well if you play with things well with Use UMBS, which I haven't been able to get working. But also, yeah, you can enable EMS via the EMS driver and get yourself up to 4 megabytes of RAM. So that's pretty cool as well. So as you can see, there's a heck of a lot of stuff going on in this one little board. And I'm going to show you how all of that works right now here on Al's Geek Lab. Thank you for your interest in the PicoMEM. I have made this board to learn and to do something useful, says FreddyV, for the retro PC community. This board was tested and uses the latest available firmware. On the GitHub page, you can find the wiki, test disk images, drivers, and the latest firmware. The PicoMEM is quite early and is not guaranteed to work on all ISA-based PCs. So yeah, so as I was saying, it's probably best if you're using this on an XT class or a PC class, but not the AT class machines. Although your mileage may vary, it might work. But anyway, let's have a look at the card here. Sealed for freshness. Okay, here we go. And it says quite helpfully, rear of PC. I don't know if you can make that out, but we'll show you some close-ups in a moment. But that says rear of PC. Obviously, it's an ISA card or ISA card, whatever way you like to say it. And here's my first glance at the card, the PicoMEM. As we can see, it has a Raspberry Pi Pico already attached to the board. So fundamentally, it's 3 different types of boards. There's this kind of passive board here with the RAM on it, a few other things. There's the DAC, digital audio converter, which does Adlib at the moment. It might do Sound Blaster in the future. Don't know, watch this space. Freddy's busy at work by the sound of things. And then finally, obviously, the Raspberry Pi, which does kind of heavy lifting of most of the tasks based on the software that Freddy and a bunch of other people, there's greetings on the back, have made to the source code. So basically it's a software defined card that does a whole lot of hardware emulation. If you've ever fancied making yourself a printed circuit board like the PicoMEM, then you should check out today's sponsor, PCBWay.com. That's PCBWay.com, and they can build you a printed circuit board like the PicoMEM from just $5. And not only do they do stuff like that, they do CNC machining, they do 3D printing, they do sheet metal fabrication and injection molding, just to name a few things. So if you'd like to check out PCBWay.com, you can check them out today for an introductory offer as well. Thanks very much to our sponsor, PCBWay.com, for making this video possible. Now, let's get back to the video. So this machine is I believe it's a V20 CPU, so it is slightly better clock for clock than the 8088 by Intel. Okay, so we're going to stick this card in the machine just with nothing going on. You can see one of the things about these cards is that they don't have the rear bracket, so it's kind of just going to sit flopping about a bit. Obviously you can 3D print them, and it looks like they've got holes for that to happen, but as it is, it doesn't have any brackets, so you'd have to 3D print something. Just having a look in this machine, it's had a lovely spider crawl up inside her and put lots of cobwebs in the way, so that's nice. So yeah, I'm actually going to plug it in and just start it up. Oh wow, there we go, PicoMEM. And it says press S for setup. So as you can probably make out here, I've gone into the BIOS setup, and you may think this looks familiar, and the reason for that is pretty much because FreddyV and friends have copied it from the Phoenix BIOS kind of look. So I'll just show you that from start. Reboot the machine, and you can see the first thing it does is ask you if you want to go into setup. So you press S to do that. Okay, so we're gonna get this PicoMEM set up. Obviously I plugged it in straight away, didn't bother reading the instructions because I just wanted to see if it worked at all. And well, it did, but apparently the best thing to do is get your firmware set to the latest version. So that's the first thing that we're supposed to do. So we're just going to look at the instructions, and you can follow along with me. So I have in my hand the PicoMEM. I have a micro USB ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it all in and follow the instructions. So if I click on this link on the wiki, so this is FreddyV's. So if you go into the main page of FreddyV's ISA PicoMEM, you can see it under there in terms of how to get started. So I think there's like please go to the wiki page, which is this one here. And then the first bit is telling you how to get set up with the firmware. So I'm going to click on that now. And you can see the different firmwares in the file list here. Right, so we probably want one of these two because this is the most recent. I guess I'm going to try this one, which is not the fast RAM one. I think it's just the normal one. All right, so I'll save this. Okay. How to update the firmware, it says. So I believe we need to plug this in, connect the board with the micro USB to a PC, laptop, and press the boot cell button on the Pico at the same time. So I don't know, again, if you can make that out, but down there's a little tiny micro switch, and it says boot cell clearly labeled on it. I'm running a Mac here, by the way, so this will be fun. I'm going to hold down the boot cell button. I'm going to stick the power in and see what happens. appeared. Okay, so what happened is this RPI2 thing came up. All right, so if we just put that over to the side, it says, I think what we want to do is copy the file over to the virtual disk. So I'll do that by selecting this here, which is my UF2 file. And I'll just copy that over to here. And it did what it's supposed to do, which is disconnect. So automatically closes when finished. So it's basically unmounted itself, which is great. The PicoMEM must be plugged into a PC so that the programming can work. Power on the PC, the retro one, and press the button at the same time. So I think what that means is I've got to plug it into my old PC and press the button. I'm assuming the button means boot cell. Just have a look at the latest firmware. What does the latest firmware do? October the 5th adds the Tandy 1000 CMS and Tandy audio. So basically, yeah, if I wanted to hear Tandy audio or the Creative Music System, this latest firmware is required. So yeah, let's see what it does when I go back over to the old PC. Okay, well that looks good because I can see that it's got a date of October 3rd. Now that we're definitely rocking the right version of the BIOS, let's now get the file system right. It takes a micro SD card. It says the ideal size is 16 gig. I only have a 32 gig. Obviously I need to plug it in to my computer, which only takes normal SD, so I'm putting it into an adapter card. So subfolders, images, configuration files, and instructions on how to do it are here. So let's go there. And let's have a look. So we've got FDD, HDD, so floppy disk and hard drive images. And I don't think we need to deal with the config book 88. Right, so how to prepare the micro SD. Micro SD can be formatted with any file system, FAT32, FAT16. So the floppy and hard drive images will need to be in binary or raw format with the extension .img. Disk images need to be stored under the HDD folder, and the floppy images are stored under the floppy folder. So what I'll do is I'll plug this in, which is a blank micro SD. And what I will do is I will bring up disk utility, and it should come up with no name there, right? So what I want to do is just make sure this is formatted as the appropriate file system. Now it's formatted as FAT32 already, but if I wanted to change that under Macintosh, this is how you do it. You just choose, obviously you don't want Mac OS or NTFS, you don't want those. You want either FAT or exFAT. So I think we'll be okay just leaving it as it is because I already formatted this before. But if you're wanting to do it, go into disk utility, plop it in, make sure you're on the right one. It's the USB external physical volume, obviously. And then, yeah, format appropriately with the right file system. Now that it was formatted, the first thing I wanted to do was stick the wifi.cfg file on there. You put the wifi.txt file, and I think in the root directory, not root directory. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to that no name folder, and I'm gonna create a folder called FDD, and also one called HDD. And I'm also gonna create a new text file. So you're gonna have to use a text editor, which is basically a raw text, like an ASCII text editor, not something that saves in rich text or anything like that. So I'm using my good and tried and true faithful Vim. But basically what we need to do, it says here that we need to create a Wi-Fi text file with the SSID in the first line and a password in the second line. And I believe that just sticks itself on the root directory of the SD card. So let's just put in my one, and the password obviously I'll put in a moment later, and then I will save the file. So I'll put the word password now, I'll come back and change that off camera. Save this, and this is where I put it onto here, and I call it wifi.txt. So I'm going to go back into the image repository thing and look at instructions on how to set up the disk images. So let's have a look in these folders, floppy disk drive, and we can see they've got some blank images. They've got this one called SV86720. Well, there it is. Bootable FreeDOS distribution. And there's also some information here on a site that has every DOS from version 1 to 7.1, and then a site that has DOS 3 to 6. So let's just grab one of these for a second, right? Okay. Automatic boot disks. Never a fan of downloading exe files. I don't think we need to do that anyway. 6.22 is the one that I classically go with. I'm going to stick this here. It's a .img file. Make it there. .img file. I'm going to stick that in the FTD folder, and that should be the first floppy disk that I've got. All right, looks good. Okay, so that's the floppy images. So now let's move on to the hard disk images. DOS 3.31, DOS 6.22 bootable images with no applications. So this one here, D33200M EN image with some utilities, MTCP, microweb, and PicoMEM drivers. That would be ideal because it's got everything we want. Let's take that one. Now, that is a zip file, so I'll need to unzip it first, I guess. But let's just put it on the SD card for now. I'm also going to swipe that D62 one because that, I believe, will be MS-DOS 6.22. So put these in the HDD. Notice they are zip files, so we need to unzip them to make them image files. You can see that the image file is inside the zip. Okay, I'm going to give this a shot now and see where we are at. So I'll just take this old, or not so old card out. I've got my little micro USB. Just click that, it clicks nicely into place. Alright, so hopefully I've got all the images that I need, and it's got the Wi-Fi TXT file on there which has all the things I need as well. So let's just put this through to floppy drive A. Can we do anything with that? No. Hard drive 0. Ah yes, so let's put the DOS 6.21 there. Notice that image file, the whole image file, the reason why it took a little while for it to unzip is because it's actually 499 megabytes in size. Let's take that D33 one because that had tools on it. That one's 200 megabytes in size. Now I do note down at the bottom of the screen here, it says store the floppy disk images under the folder floppy and HDD, whereas on the website it said FDD. So I get a feeling if I renamed that folder to be floppy instead of FDD, then that might work. But for now, let's just see how we go. Global audio, let's just switch this on. And look, now that we can see that we've got this new upgraded firmware, we can see that there's Adlib, CMS, and Tandy. So let's just switch on Adlib for now. Let's have a look and switch on the Wi-Fi card. Let's go to 300. So the SSID is definitely not being found, which is a shame. So I am into DOS now, and I can see that because I've got straight into this version. You can see there's a PicoMEM folder there as well. Nothing in that folder. I'm going to try going to D because I mounted the DOS 3.1 image, 3.3 whatever it was, and you can see there, yes, there's those other files and folders in there. So just before I released this video, there's a new version of PicoMEM's pinit tool, which is version 0.3, and it makes the biggest difference with the Tandy sound. So if I switch on Tandy and make sure I use 0C0, then I go to my music folder and I can use Master XT. So I'll go into my Tandy folder and here's some Tandy music. So I'll press T to change to synth, and I'll choose Tandy. And just note on the right hand side there, I've got interrupt selected, so I can do space to change the port, but I've chosen 0C0 or C0, and I've chosen interrupt. And now Tandy music. So that works pretty well. Bit of Space Quest for you there. Bit of the old Lemmings. And then let's go and switch to Adlib. Sounds pretty good. I was always a fan of the Starport BBS intro tune by PicoMEM. Pretty faithful reenaction of Adlib, I would say. It sounds pretty good. What do you think? As you can see, that 3.5mm audio jack sticks out above the case of the computer, which will get very annoying, so you might need one of those side angled ones. So yeah, I guess that would be a design change for a future version. Would be ideal to have a cable going off to the side and basically into a faceplate along there. Okay, so I have sorted those directories on the SD card. Let's have a look, see at everything here. So let's go over to here. The floppy folder, not FDD as I'd called it, it's called floppy, has also that. So if I put it into the system now, it will boot off the floppy disk because that comes as order of precedence, I think. Yeah, FDD0, I caught it in time that time. So 1.4 megabyte disk image. It's looking for a CD-ROM which doesn't exist. Here's an opportunity for me to show you the power of the PicoMEM's PM init tool at work. So the ability to swap disks in and out. There is no other way for me to install this software other than for me to insert the different disks, and obviously I don't have those disks for real. So if I press Control Shift F2 and now choose the second check-it disk, hopefully it will realise, yes, that I have inserted the second disk. So that's a great way for you to be able to use floppy-based software, images that is, and use it just as if it were the real thing. So to use Wi-Fi, what I have done is I've used my mobile phone's hotspot. As you can see on here, I have my hotspot name set to Al's hotspot, and I updated my Wi-Fi.txt to use the hotspot's SSID rather than my home Wi-Fi. Now the reason I did this is because the signal strength coming from my Wi-Fi access point in the other room is just simply too weak to be picked up, and that's because the antenna on the PicoMEM is absolutely tiny. The actual Raspberry Pi Pico, the antenna is about the size of my thumbnail. Alright, so not so great. So anyway, we have a look over here and we can see that Al's hotspot is now connected and it's using port 300 and RQ3. And if I move my phone even closer to the computer, so I'm just sticking it right down the back of the computer, I'll now restart the computer and I'll use the PM init tool. In fact, it might say there, yeah, -59. The closer to 0, the better in terms of signal strength. So we can even check that on the fly, as it were, by using the PicoMEM PM init tool. So -K, I think it is. Yeah. So if we do Control Shift F1, it will repeat that process, and it's still at 59. But if I take the phone away a little, I'll put it over somewhere over here. Signal is now 0 dB, which is probably not true. Give it a second to settle down. Yeah, now we can see that instead of -50 odd, it's now -70. So even just moving the phone from here to over by the computer makes a difference, and that's just because that antenna is pretty small. So I've now dropped it round the back of the computer, and now you can see it's gone from -70, which is obviously weaker than -57. So we now have a strong signal and we can go about our business. So that's one thing to check if you are having problems with the Wi-Fi on this. Certainly it was a massive problem for me. I just could not get it working at all. And it doesn't help that these big cases are like Faraday cages, to be honest with you. So let's go now into the PicoMEM directory, which I'm already in, and I will issue the command NE2000 and I'll do 0x60. I'll come out of that actually and I'll just show you what the NE2000 is. There's also a PM2000, which is an updated PicoMEM version of the same tool. Now, your mileage may vary, but I found in this particular version of the PicoMEM drivers, this packet driver does not work for me. I just could not get a DHCP based IP address. It just did not work. So I reverted back to the legacy driver, the legacy packet driver, which is still delivered with the drivers, and it's NE2000. So in there, basically all we need to do is supply the packet interrupt number, and the packet interrupt number thankfully is always going to be the same unless you really mess things around. So it's 0x60, so it's the packet interrupt number, and it should come back pretty much straight away and tell you, look, I found your machine and I found the MAC address or the Ethernet address for the Raspberry Pi Pico right there, which it has indeed. So once you've got yourself on the network, as it were, that's basically what you're doing. You're creating a shim into DOS to say at the interrupt number 60, every time you contact that, you're basically making a connection to the network. So now what we do is we go on to the MTCP directory, Michael Brookman's TCP drivers, and the first thing you want to do is type in DHCP. In there, hopefully, if your signal strength is nice and strong, you should immediately receive an IP address. And you can see that I've been assigned this IP address, 192.168.104.182, which is being provided from my hotspot there. So now I should be able to do things with MTCP. So if we have a look at the exe files in here, there's a whole bunch of things we can do. A basic one, just to check that we've got connectivity to the internet, is to use ping. So if we go ping 8.8.8.8, which is the Google DNS IP address, that should just come back straight away. So that means if we're able to get an IP address coming back, that rules out, you know, problems with the DNS, because we can try DNS now and see if we can get a response that way as well, and we do. So that obviously works as well. So we're looking good. Now if we want to try using, say, Telnet, we could Telnet to the best BBS in the world, which is, of course, at bbs.alsgeeklab.com on port 2323. And if we just log in here, yay, the best BBS in the world. Of course, it's the official BBS of Al's Geek Lab YouTube channel. Definitely go and log into this BBS, and definitely like and subscribe to Al's Geek Lab, you know, the channel that you're watching right now, because it's awesome. Definitely also check out this amazing 8-part documentary series about bulletin boards. It's called Back to the BBS, and guess what? It's on your favourite YouTube channel, Al's Geek Lab. Have a post on the wall in the one-liners. Search for new emails. Play some cool games. Oh, dealer's got 12. I got 10. 16. Stand. No. Let's have a look at today's weather. What's it like in Wellington? Well, I've got to be honest with you, that's exactly like what it is right now. Some broken clouds out there. It's not looking great. There's a web browser called Microweb. Let's see if we can get that to work. frogfind.com. Hey, there's Frogfind. Isn't that wonderful? So whilst it is absolutely definitely possible to use the Wi-Fi on the PicoMEM, the only issue is the signal strength. It really is very, very limited to pretty much just beside the computer. If you're using your Wi-Fi AP and it's in another room, pretty much you're likely to be out of luck unless you've got repeaters throughout your house. So yeah, that's the main thing that I have as a caveat with the Wi-Fi. Okay, so this PC is a bare bones XT. I've pared it all back, I've taken all the extra RAM cards that I had out of it, so it's just got 256k of RAM, and we can see that by looking here. We have 256k total and a free memory of 200 whopping kilobytes, so pretty useless as a PC in fact, but you know, amazingly they still operated and even sold with 256k. In fact, I think the first PC that was ever sold came with 64k of RAM, which is like the same as the Commodore 64. Crazy. Anyway, so let's have a look at the memory expansion capabilities. So if you've say got a system with 512k or maybe 256 or 384k like this, then obviously this whole bank here won't be filled up. So what we can do is just go on and enable the PM RAM, and that gives us, I believe, 128k of memory, which is directly on the PicoMEM. So that's, yeah, directly connected, fast RAM, no problems. If we want the rest of our RAM, then we use the PS RAM, which is serial RAM. So this one here, 0 wait states, nice and fast RAM, great. But if we want to get the full load of RAM, then we can enable this, and that will enable the serial RAM, which is that little chip above the Raspberry Pi Pico, and that has a number of wait states. I believe it's 6 wait states, so it's pretty slow, I'm afraid. I believe that FreddyV is actually working on enhancing this, but at the moment still pretty slow. But regardless, you can max out your RAM. So let's first of all just see here what happens if I just enable the PM RAM, that fast RAM. So it should be the same speed as the RAM on your machine. So I'm expecting to see a small increase from the 256k up to there we go, 384K with 325K full. So obviously, great, that's going to be performant. And if you've got 512K RAM as your conventional RAM and you just need that little boost extra, then that might be quite helpful. But if you're somebody like me who wants all the RAM, then you could enable it like this. So let's have a look at that now. We should be able to see 640K conventional. And indeed we do. 578K is free in memory as well. So that is awesome. And the last thing I'm going to show you is the EMS. So right now you can see that there is absolutely zero in the way of any extra memory, expanded or extended. Expanded is EMS, extended is XMS. And so it was pretty unusual for XT class machines to have any more than 640K of RAM. However, it was possible to get EMS boards which were made by, they were sort of EMS itself was a memory specification standard, which was kind of like a hack. It kind of worked in that upper memory area of the PC, so it still worked within that initial 640K, which I think was actually above the 640K area, but it was still addressable by the PC or the XT, which could only ever address 1 megabyte of RAM. So the way EMS worked is, I think Lotus, Intel and Microsoft, LIM it was called, got together and created this EMS standard, and they said, right guys, we're going to make this work with our old computers. How can we get an addressable space of megabytes of RAM but just using that 1 megabyte limit? So the way that they did that, or 640K limit really, is to create a page that would page in and page out memory, and I think the paging of memory was 64K if I'm not mistaken. So let's edit our config sys. Well, if I could type. And I've already commented it out, but I'll uncomment the line. It's just device and then running this PicoMEM exe thing here. So I'll save that. I'll come back out and restart the machine. And I'll just go into the setup. And you'll see this option here for EMS port. So I'll just switch it on, give it any old port, and it gives the address of E1000. Okay, so I'll then press escape, restart the machine. Straight away it's going to start doing a test of the memory. You can see there it's testing each page of memory, and we can just press escape. Makes a terrible sound and then tells us that we have 4 megabytes of RAM available. And if we do MEM, we can now see that we have, whilst we still have 0 extended, which is fine, we have expanded 4 megabytes of RAM, which is awesome. So what can you use that for, I hear you ask? Well, applications like Microsoft Windows 2 and various other apps like maybe Desk View, those sorts of things, they required a lot of memory to run. Lotus 123, lots of different applications that really could benefit from having lots of extra memory, but still supported old PCs like the XT. Those were the ones that really benefited from EMS. XMS came along a little bit later and pretty much overtook from from EMS. So there you have it, the little card that can. It's the PicoMEM. So pretty good card. I've got to say, it really does start to replace a lot of the functionality of a lot of other cards, as I talked about at the beginning of this video. It still has a little way to go. It's in development still. For example, those wait states for the memory really kind of cripples the system's performance. So using all that memory has a disadvantage in that regard. The second thing is obviously if you are expecting it to give you Wi-Fi that's at the other side of the building, then you're probably sorely mistaken. The antenna on this card is just practically non-existent. Look, you can see there's hardly anything there for you to to expect a signal on. So if your Wi-Fi AP is in another room like mine, it's not very far away, but it's still far enough away for the signal strength to be slightly weaker. And that's a problem because I just cannot get Wi-Fi without taking the whole big heavy machine behind me into the living room. Not great. So, I mean, I guess it would be great if there would be some sort of external antenna option available. That's not impossible, I guess, but watch this space. I had trouble getting the Tandy audio to work, but that's not a surprise. That's more than likely because I'm using a VGA or an EGA card. I actually don't have any CGA cards around here anymore, so that's probably why. It's probably a conflict with the VGA card. But other than that, I think this is a massive, amazing piece of work that's really going to, is continuing to be developed, and it gets better with every firmware release. Like, until recently it didn't do the creative music system or Gameblaster, and I didn't do Tandy either. So that was just in the space of like a month or so that update came out. So it's awesome to see the continued development of an amazing product that really does so many things to sort of retro mod your PC, bring it into, you know, screaming into the modern day and age. Yeah, so brilliant contraption. Even if you did only use it for like one of the features on here, not all of them, it would still be an amazing buy, an amazing value for money. So yeah, that's the PicoMEM. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, thank you very much for watching. I would love it if you could subscribe to the channel and press that notification bell, set it to all so you can see all the new videos coming out. And of course, if you liked the video, press like. If you didn't, then, well, I guess you know what to do, and you can of course leave comments below. Thanks very much for watching Al's Geek Lab. Stay tuned for the next video, and until next time, be excellent to each other.